Captain Juan stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the stars. His ship was called Serenity's Edge, and it was not built for war. The Villani people did not make war ships. They made ships for peace, for talking, for helping others. Juan was proud of this. The Villani looked like living crystals. Their bodies were clear and beautiful, and light moved through them like water. They had been traveling between the stars for many years, but they had never hurt anyone. Violence was not their way. Juan was reading reports when his communications officer called his name. Her name was Mirai, and she was young for a Villani. Her crystal body was still bright blue, not the deep purple that came with age. "Captain," Mirai said, and her voice was worried. "I am getting a strange signal. It is not from any species we know." Juan walked over to her station. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Outside the windows, space was dark and full of stars. "Show me," Juan said. Mirai touched her controls, and a voice filled the bridge. It was speaking a language none of them knew, but their computers were working hard to translate it. The voice sounded afraid. "What does it say?" Juan asked. "Give me a moment, Captain. The translation is still working." Mirai's fingers moved quickly over her controls. Light patterns flowed through her body as she concentrated. Then the translation came through clearly. The voice was begging for help. "Please, anyone who can hear this message. My people are dying. The Kreks have come to our world. They want to harvest us. They want to cut out our organs and use them for their weapons. We cannot fight them. We have no weapons. We have no army. Please, if anyone out there has mercy, help us." The bridge went silent. Juan felt cold inside his crystal body. The Kreks were known throughout the galaxy. They were hunters. They were killers. They traveled from world to world, taking what they wanted and destroying everything else. "Where is this signal coming from?" Juan asked. "The Lumira system, Captain. It is 3 days away at full speed." Juan knew about the Lumira. They were peaceful beings who lived in the oceans of their world. They looked like jellyfish, but could think and feel like any other intelligent species. They made beautiful art, with light, and had never hurt anyone. "How many Krek ships are there?" Juan asked. Mirai worked at her controls again. Her body flashed with worried colors. "The signal mentions thousands of ships, Captain. Maybe more." Juan closed his eyes. The Villani had 12 ships in their entire fleet. They were exploration ships, not warships. Even if they wanted to help, they could not fight thousands of Krek's vessels. "Captain," said his science officer, a wise old Villani named Jorik, "we must do something. We cannot let an entire species die." "What can we do?" Juan asked. "We are not warriors. Our people do not even know how to fight." The bridge crew looked at each other. They all wanted to help, but they all knew the truth. The Villani were builders and dreamers. They made beautiful cities and wonderful art, but they had never learned. "To make war, there might be a way," Mirai said quietly. Everyone looked at her. She was the youngest officer on the bridge, but she was also the smartest when it came to communications and computers. "What way?" Juan asked. "The legends, Captain. The stories about the Deathworlders." The bridge went quiet again. Every species in the galaxy had heard the stories. Somewhere out there was a planet so dangerous that it had created monsters. These monsters looked almost like other species, but they were different. They came from a world where everything tried to kill them, so they had learned to kill everything else. Most people thought the stories were not real. They were just scary tales that parents told their children to make them behave. But some traders claimed they had seen the Deathworlder ships. They said the ships were made of metal and fire, and the beings inside them were the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. "Those are just stories, Mirai," Jorik said. "Maybe," she replied. "But what if they are not? What if the Deathworlders are real? What if they would help?" Juan thought about this. The stories said the Deathworlders came from a planet called Earth. They said these beings were so dangerous that even the Kreks were afraid of them. But the stories also said something else. They said the Deathworlders protected others who could not protect themselves. "Even if they are real," Juan said, "why would they help the Lumira? Why would they help us?" "Because," Mirai said, "the stories say they hate bullies. They hate beings who hurt the weak. If the Deathworlders are real, and if they are anything like the stories say, then they would want to stop the Kreks. Juan walked to the front of the bridge and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Lumira were dying. Somewhere else. Maybe the Deathworlders were real and waiting for someone to ask for their help. "Do we have any idea where Earth might be?" he asked. "I have been studying the old star charts," Mireille said. "There are some systems that no one has explored, systems that are marked as dangerous. Maybe one of them is Earth." "And maybe they are just empty space," Jorix said. "Captain, this is a terrible risk. If we send a signal asking for help from monsters, we might bring those monsters to our own worlds." Juan understood Jorix's fear, but he also understood something else. The Lumira were going to die. The Kreks would kill them all, and then they would find other worlds to attack. Eventually, they might even come for the Villani. "Mireille," Juan said, "prepare a message. Send it on all frequencies in all directions. Maybe the Deathworlders will hear it. Maybe they will not. But we have to try." Mireille nodded and began working at her controls. The rest of the bridge crew watched her in silence. "What should the message say, Captain?" she asked. Juan thought for a long moment. What could he say to beings who might be real or might be just stories? What words could he use to ask monsters for help? "Say this," he began. "Unknown Deathworlders of Earth, this is Captain Juan of the Villani Republic. An innocent species faces extinction. The Kreks Dominion is attacking the Lumira people who have no weapons and no way to defend themselves. If you exist, and if you have even a small piece of mercy in your hearts, please respond. We are not asking you to save us. We are asking you to save them." Mireille typed the message into the ship's computers. Then she looked up at Juan. "Ready to send, Captain." "Send it," Juan said. The message flew out into space, racing toward the stars at the speed of light. It would take time to reach distant systems, and more time for any answer to come back. But now it was done. "How long before we could reach the Lumira system?" Juan asked. 3 days at maximum speed, Captain. Set course for Lumira. We cannot fight the Kreks, but maybe we can help evacuate some of the Lumira people before it is too late." As his ship turned toward the Lumira system, Juan wondered if he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He had asked for help from beings who might be monsters, but he had also asked for help for people who were about to die. Somewhere in the darkness of space, the message traveled toward Earth. And on Earth, someone was about to receive the first message from an alien species. Someone was about to learn that the galaxy was full of life, and that some of that life needed protection from predators. The message flew through space, carrying with it the hopes of 2 species and the fears of a third. Soon the galaxy would learn what humans were really like when someone they had never met asked them for help. Admiral Kyung was drinking coffee when the galaxy changed forever. He sat in his command chair on the bridge of the Iron Will, humanity's largest warship. The ship was huge, made of steel and titanium, with enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. Kyung was a big man with gray hair and scars on his hands from years of military service. He had fought in 3 wars against human enemies, but he had never expected to fight aliens. Nobody on Earth had ever believed aliens were real. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Bora from the communications station. "I'm getting something strange on the long-range sensors." "What kind of strange?" Kyung asked. "It's a signal, sir, but it's not from any human ship or station. The computer says it's coming from deep space, maybe 50 light-years away." Kyung set down his coffee cup. 50 light-years was farther than any human had ever traveled. The farthest human colony was only 12 light-years from Earth. "Put it on the main screen," he said. The front view screen flickered, and then words appeared. But they were not in any human language. They looked like symbols and patterns that meant nothing to anyone on the bridge. "Computer," Kyung said. "Can you translate this?" "Working," the computer replied in its calm electronic voice. "Translation complete. Playing message now." A new voice filled the bridge. It was clearly not human, but the translation made the words understandable. Unknown. Deathworlders of Earth, this is Captain Juan of the Villani Republic. An innocent species faces extinction. The Kreks Dominion is attacking the Lumira people, who have no weapons and no way to defend themselves. If you exist, and if you have even a small piece of mercy in your hearts, please respond. We are not asking you to save us. We are asking you to save them. The bridge went completely silent. Every person stopped what they were doing and stared at the screen. Admiral Kyung felt his heart beating faster. This was first contact. This was the moment humanity learned they were not alone in the universe. And the first message from space was asking for help. "Sir," Lieutenant Bora said, her voice shaking, "what do we do?" Kyung stood up slowly. His mind was racing. Aliens were real. There were multiple alien species, and some of them were attacking others. "Get me Dr. Nari," he said. "Tell her to come to the bridge immediately." Dr. Nari was the fleet's expert on anything involving life forms. She was a small woman with bright eyes who loved to study new things. If anyone could help them understand this message, it would be her. While they waited, Kyung called his senior officers to the bridge. Commander Jun arrived first. He was young but smart, and he commanded the assault ship Relentless. Captain Yuna came next. She was quiet and deadly, the commander of the stealth ship Ghostwalker. "You all heard the message?" Kyung asked. They nodded. "What do you think?" he asked. "It could be a trap," Commander Jun said. "Someone trying to trick us into leaving Earth defenseless." "Maybe," Captain Yuna said. "But who would know how to make a message like this? And why would they call us Deathworlders?" Dr. Nari arrived just as Yuna finished speaking. She was carrying her tablet computer and looked excited. "Admiral," she said, "this is incredible. I've been analyzing the signal. It's definitely from an alien source. The technology is completely different from ours, but it's also very advanced." "What about the message itself?" Kyung asked. "They're asking for help. The aliens sending the message are called Volani. They say another alien species called Krex is attacking a third species called Lumira. The Lumira apparently can't defend themselves. And they called us Deathworlders," Commander Jun said. "What does that mean?" Dr. Nari looked at her tablet. "I think it means they know something about Earth. They know it's a dangerous planet. Maybe they know that living here made us tough." Admiral Kyung thought about this. Earth was dangerous. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, volcanic eruptions, and asteroid impacts. They had fought wars against nature and against each other for millions of years. Maybe that did make them different from aliens who came from safer worlds. "Can we respond to this message?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Lieutenant Bora said. "I can send a reply using the same frequency." "Should we tell Earth Command about this first?" Captain Yuna asked. Kyung considered this. Earth Command was the government that controlled all human military forces. They would want to study the message and debate what to do. That could take weeks or months. By then, the species asking for help might be dead. "No," he said. "We respond now. If there are innocents being killed, we don't have time for politics." Dr. Nari was reading more information from her tablet. "Admiral, the message includes data about the alien species. The Lumira are described as peaceful ocean dwellers. They've never developed weapons. The Krex are described as aggressive harvesters who strip resources from conquered worlds." "Harvesters?" Commander Jun asked. "They kill other species and use their bodies to make weapons and tools," Dr. Nari explained. "According to this data, they've destroyed dozens of worlds." Admiral Kyung felt anger building inside him. He had spent his whole career protecting innocent people from bullies and killers. It didn't matter if those bullies were human or alien. "How many ships do we have ready for combat?" he asked. Commander Jun checked his tablet. 12 battle groups, sir. About 300 ships total, all of them armed and ready. "And how long would it take to reach this Lumira system?" "According to the star charts in the message, about 2 weeks at maximum jump speed," Captain Yuna said. Kyung walked to the front of the bridge and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, innocent people were dying, and apparently those people thought humans might help them. "Admiral," Dr. Nari said, "there's something else. The message suggests that other alien species know about humans. They know about Earth. We might not be as hidden as we thought." This was important information. Humans had always assumed they were alone and safe. But if aliens knew about Earth, then Earth might be in danger too. "All the more reason to show them what we're capable of," Kyung said. "Lieutenant Bora, send a reply." "What should it say, sir?" Kyung thought for a moment. What could he say to aliens he had never met? How could he tell them that humans would help? Say this. Captain Juan of the Villani Republic. This is Admiral Kyung of the Terran Defense Fleet. We received your message. We are coming to help. Send us all information about the enemy and the location of the Lumira. We will not let innocent people die while we have the power to stop it. Lieutenant Bora typed the message and sent it into space. Now, Kyung said, contact all battle group commanders. Tell them to prepare for immediate departure. We're going to war. Sir, Commander Jun said, are we sure about this? We don't know anything about these aliens. We don't know how strong the enemy is. We could be flying into a trap. Maybe, Kyung said. But if we are, then we'll fight our way out. And if we're not, then we'll save innocent lives. Either way, we'll show the galaxy what humans are made of. Over the next hour, the entire human fleet prepared for departure. 300 ships began charging their jump drives. Weapons were loaded, shields were tested, and crews prepared for battle. Dr. Nari worked with the fleet's engineers to study the alien technology described in the message. Engineer Day, a quiet man who understood weapons better than anyone, began designing new ammunition specifically for fighting the Kreks. Their armor is made of a chitinous material, he told Admiral Kyung. Like insect shells, but much thicker. Our standard rounds might not penetrate it. What do you recommend? Kyung asked. Armor-piercing rounds with explosive cores, and plasma weapons if we can modify our energy systems. Do it, Kyung ordered. As the fleet prepared to leave, Kyung received another message from the Villani. This one included detailed information about the Kreks forces and the location of the Lumira homeworld. Thousands of Kreks ships, Captain Yuna read from the data. They're organized into harvesting fleets. Each fleet has about 100 ships, including heavy bombardment vessels and troop transports. And they're attacking a species that has no weapons, Commander Jun said. This isn't war, it's slaughter. Admiral Kyung looked around his bridge, at his officers. These were good people who had sworn to protect the innocent. It didn't matter if the innocent were human or alien. All ships report ready for departure, Admiral, Lieutenant Bora announced. Then let's go remind the galaxy why. They call us Deathworlders, Kyung said. All ships, jump. The human fleet disappeared from Earth space in flashes of blue light. They were traveling faster than light toward a war they had never asked to fight, to save people they had never met, from enemies they had never seen. Behind them, Earth continued to spin peacefully in space, unaware that its children had just become the galaxy's protectors. War Prime Vorthak stretched his forearms and felt satisfaction flow through his chitinous body. The Kreks dreadnought Bone Crusher moved slowly through space toward the blue-green world of the Lumira. Behind him, over 2,000 Kreks ships followed in perfect formation. Vorthak was proud of his fleet. Each ship was built for harvesting and destruction. The Kreks had conquered 47 worlds using these same ships and these same tactics. The Lumira would be number 48. War Prime, called Commander Grix from his position near the weapons station. We are receiving the first scan data from the target world. Vorthak turned his massive head toward Grix. Like all Kreks, Grix looked like a giant insect covered in natural armor. His 6 eyes focused on the data screen in front of him. Show me, Vorthak ordered. The main view screen displayed the Lumira homeworld. It was beautiful, covered in blue oceans with small continents scattered across the surface. The Lumira lived, mainly underwater in great cities that glowed with soft light. Population? Vorthak asked. Approximately 50 million Lumira, War Prime, all concentrated in underwater colonies. Defensive capabilities? None detected, War Prime. No orbital stations, no weapon satellites, no military vessels, only civilian transports and research ships. Vorthak clicked his mandibles together in pleasure. This would be easy. The Lumira were exactly what the Kreks loved to hunt. Intelligent. Enough to be valuable, but too weak to fight back. Begin standard harvesting protocol, he ordered. Bombardment ships will destroy their surface installations first. Then we send down the harvesting teams to collect specimens. The Kreks had learned long ago that fear made their victims more valuable. If they destroyed some cities first, the remaining population would be terrified and easier to capture. War Prime, Grix said, long-range sensors are detecting something unusual. What kind of unusual? Unknown energy signatures approaching our position. 12 distinct formations moving at high speed. Vorthak was not worried. Many species tried to interfere with Krek's harvesting operations. They usually sent one or two ships to protest or attempt a rescue. Those ships were quickly destroyed and their crews became additional specimens. How many ships? He asked. Difficult to determine, War Prime. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our database. The formations appear to contain approximately 25 vessels each. 300 ships? Vorthak was surprised. Most species could barely build 10 warships. Which species? Unknown. War Prime. They are not responding to our communication attempts. Vorthak considered this. 300 ships was more than most species could field, but it was still much. Smaller than his own fleet. The Kreks had been challenged before by larger alliances, and they had always won. Maintain course, he ordered. If these unknown vessels interfere with our harvest, we will add them to our collection. Meanwhile, on the Lumira homeworld, panic was spreading through the underwater cities. Elder crystalline song of deep waters floated in the central chamber of the capital city, surrounded by other Lumira leaders. The Lumira looked like giant jellyfish made of living glass. Their transparent bodies pulsed with beautiful patterns of light that served as their language. Right now, those patterns showed fear and desperation. The Kreks ships have entered our star system, crystalline song communicated through rapid flashes of red and gold light. We must begin the deep evacuation immediately. But Elder, flashed another Lumira, the deep cities are not finished. We can only save a fraction of our people. Crystalline Song felt sadness flow through her body. The Lumira had been working for years to build emergency cities in the deepest parts of their ocean, far below where most starships could detect them. But the work was not complete. Save who we can, she flashed. The children and the carriers of knowledge must go first. Throughout the underwater cities, Lumira families began moving toward the great tunnels that led to the ocean depths. Their transportation was slow, organic ships that swam through the water like living creatures. These ships were beautiful but fragile, designed for exploration and research, not for escape from predators. Above them, in the cold vacuum of space, the first human ships dropped out of hyperspace. Captain Sue stood on the bridge of the destroyer, vengeful strike, and watched the Kreks fleet through her ship's sensors. She was a small woman with steel-gray eyes and 20 years of combat experience. "Tactical report," she ordered. 2,047 Kreks vessels, reported her weapons officer. They're arranged in a standard harvesting formation. Bombardment. Ships in the front, troop transports in the middle, command vessels in the rear. Any sign they've detected us? Not yet, Captain. We're still at maximum sensor range. Captain Sue smiled coldly. The Kreks were about to learn what happened when predators met real predators. Signal the fleet, she said. Execute Alpha Strike. Formation. Target their front line. Across space, 300 human ships moved into attack position. They moved with precision and speed that surprised the Kreks sensors. Human ships were built differently than other species' vessels. They were smaller but faster, with weapons designed for maximum damage. Admiral Kyung watched the tactical display from his flagship. The Kreks fleet was huge, but it was also slow and predictable. They had formed up in the same pattern they probably used against every defenseless species. All ships report ready, Admiral, announced his communications officer. Begin the attack, Kyung ordered. The first salvo of human weapons lit up the darkness of space. Rail guns fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Plasma cannons sent streams of superheated gas toward their targets. Missile batteries launched hundreds of guided warheads. The Kreks had never experienced anything like it. War Prime. Commander Grix screamed. We are under attack! Unknown vessels have opened fire! Vorthak spun toward the tactical display just as the first human weapons struck his fleet. 3 Kreks bombardment ships exploded instantly, their hulls torn apart by weapons they had never seen before. Return fire! Vorthak roared. All ships, return fire! But the Kreks fleet was too slow. Their ships were built for intimidation and for attacking defenseless targets. They were not built for fighting an enemy that shot first and shot accurately. Captain Yuna's stealth ship Ghostwalker had moved close to the Kreks formation without being detected. Now she struck from behind, targeting the Kreks command ships with precision strikes. Helm, bring us around for another pass. she ordered calmly. Weapons! Target their communications array. Her ship's plasma cannons destroyed the main communication ship, cutting off coordination between different parts of the Krek's fleet. Commander June led a squadron of assault ships in a direct attack against the Krek's center. His ship, Relentless, charged through a formation of Krek's cruisers, firing in all directions. These aliens are too slow, he told his crew. They can't keep up with us. The human ships moved like sharks among fish. They struck fast, hit hard, and moved away before the Kreks could respond effectively. It was a type of warfare the Kreks had never encountered. War Prime, Grix reported. We have lost 43 ships in the first attack. The enemy is using some kind of advanced hit-and-run tactics. Vorthak felt rage building in his chest. The Kreks were supposed to be the predators. They were supposed to be the ones doing the hunting. Who are these aliens? He demanded. Unknown, War Prime, but they are broadcasting a message. Put it on the main screen. Admiral Kyung's face appeared on the Krek's view screen. He looked calm and dangerous, like a predator who had found prey. Krek's Dominion, Kyung said. This is Admiral Kyung of the Terran Defense Fleet. You are attacking an innocent species. You will withdraw from this system immediately, or we will destroy every ship in your fleet. Vorthak stared at the human face on his screen. This alien looked small and weak compared to a Krex warrior, but his ships were tearing through the Krex fleet like it was made of paper. I am War Prime Vorthak of the Krex Dominion, he replied. The Lumira belong to us. We have claimed this world for harvesting. Who are you to interfere with our hunt? We are from Earth, Admiral Kyung said. His voice was quiet but filled with promise of violence. We are what you get when a death world breeds soldiers instead of victims. The communication ended, and the human attack resumed with even greater intensity. Captain Su led her destroyer squadron in a flanking maneuver that caught an entire Krex battle group by surprise. Human weapons tore through chitinous armor like it was cardboard. Enemy ships are trying to retreat, her tactical officer reported. Don't let them, Su ordered. Any ship that was going to participate in genocide doesn't get to leave. Below them, on the Lumira homeworld, Elder Crystalline Song watched the battle through her people's orbital sensors. She had never seen combat before, but she could tell that something impossible was happening. The Krex, who had seemed unstoppable, were being defeated by ships she had never seen before. Elder, flashed one of her advisors. Who are these new aliens? Are they the ones who answered our call for help? I believe so, Crystalline Song replied through patterns of blue and silver light. These must be the Deathworlders. The battle continued for 6 hours. When it ended, over 300 Krex ships had been destroyed or disabled. The human fleet had lost only 2 ships, and both crews had been rescued. Captain Hay moved her stealth destroyer through the asteroid field like a ghost hunting prey. The ship's silent death was built for one purpose, killing enemies who could not see her coming. Target acquired, reported her weapons officer, a young man named Tay. Krex supply convoy, 3 ships, minimal escort. Hay studied the tactical display. The Krex were trying to bring supplies and reinforcements to their main fleet. They thought they were safe in the asteroid field, hidden from human sensors. They were wrong. Fire, Hay ordered. 3 missiles launched from Silent Death, weaving between asteroids to strike the Krex convoy. The supply ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light, their cargo scattered into space. Convoy destroyed, Captain, Tay reported. Good. Mark the location and move to the next target. This was the 5th Krex supply convoy that Hai had destroyed in 2 days. The human strategy was simple. Cut off the enemy's supplies while avoiding direct battle until the main fleet was ready. Admiral Kyung called it bleeding them dry, and it was working perfectly. Meanwhile, Commander Bin was leading a different kind of operation. His massive battleship Iron Fist was engaging a full Krex battle group in open combat, using tactics that turned the aliens' own strength against them. Enemy formation is closing, Admiral, his tactical officer reported. Let them come, Bin said, calmly. He was a big man with scars on his face from previous battles. When they get close enough, execute Maneuver 7. The Krex ships approached in their standard formation, a wall of heavy cruisers followed by their dreadnoughts. It was an intimidating sight, but Bin had fought worse odds before. Now, he ordered. Iron Fist suddenly accelerated forward, diving under the Krex formation. As it passed beneath the enemy ships, every weapon on the battleship fired upward into the less armored undersides of the Krex vessels. 4 Krex cruisers exploded immediately. The others tried to turn to follow Iron Fist, but human ships were much more maneuverable than the heavy Krex vessels. "Bring us around for another pass," Bin ordered. "Target their command ship." The Iron Fist turned in a tight arc that would have been impossible for a Krex ship. Human engineering was different from alien engineering. Where the Krex built for intimidation and brute force, humans built for speed and flexibility. Lieutenant Ara was having the time of her life. Her fighter squadron was dancing through 3-dimensional space around a formation of Krex interceptors. The aliens were fast, but they could only think in 2 dimensions. They moved like ships on an ocean instead of fighters in space. "Blue leader to all blues," Ara called over her radio. "Execute vertical spiral. Target their engines. 12 human." Fighters suddenly climbed straight up, then dove down toward the Krex formation from above. The alien pilots tried to follow, but their ships could not change direction as quickly as the human fighters. Fox 1, called Blue 3 as he fired a missile into a Krex interceptor. "Splash 1, Bandit," Blue 7 reported as another. Enemy fighter exploded. Ara rolled her fighter through a loop that brought her behind the lead Krex ship. Her targeting computer locked onto the alien's engine, and she fired a short burst from her plasma cannons. The Krex fighter came apart in a shower of debris. "Blue leader, this is Control," came a voice from the battleship. "Excellent work. Return to base for rearming." "Copy, Control. Blue squadron heading home." As Ara led her fighters back toward the human fleet, she felt proud of what they had accomplished. The Krex had been terrorizing innocent species for years, but they had never fought anyone who actually knew how to fight back. Dr. Nari was working in her laboratory aboard Admiral Kyung's flagship when she received an unexpected visitor. Captain Juan of the Valani Republic had come aboard to coordinate the defense of the Lumira homeworld. "Doctor," Juan said, his crystal body flashing with grateful colors, "I wanted to thank you for studying our people's gifts." Nari looked up from her work. She had been studying samples of Lumira tissue that had been freely given by volunteers. What she had discovered was amazing. "Captain, your Lumira friends have incredible healing abilities. Their tissue can regenerate almost any injury. If we could combine this with human medical technology, we could save lives," Juan finished. "Both human and alien lives." "Exactly, but I need to understand more about how it works. Would it be possible for me to visit their underwater cities?" Juan's body flashed with surprise. "You would want to visit them, even though they look very different from humans?" "Captain," Nari said with a smile, "I've been dreaming of meeting alien life forms my whole career. The fact that they're different is what makes them wonderful." While the scientist worked on new medical techniques, Engineer Day was solving a different kind of problem. He stood in the weapons bay of the Iron Will, surrounded by pieces of Krex armor that had been collected from destroyed ships. "It's tougher than I thought," he told Admiral Kyung. "Their natural armor is like layers of ceramic and metal combined, but I think I've found a weakness." "Show me," Kyung said. Day held up a piece of Krex armor and pointed to a small area near one edge. "Their armor is grown, not manufactured. That means it has natural stress points where different sections meet. If we target those points," he activated a small plasma torch and touched it to the stress point. The armor, which had been nearly indestructible, suddenly cracked and fell apart. "Impressive," Kyung said. "Can you modify our targeting systems to identify these weak points?" "Already. Working on it, Admiral. Give me 12 hours and every weapon in the fleet will know exactly where to hit them." But the humans were not the only ones learning from the battle. War Prime Vorthak had sent urgent messages to the Krex homeworld, requesting massive reinforcements. "The humans are unlike any species we have encountered," he reported to the Krex High Command. "They fight with coordination and intelligence that rivals our own. Worse, they seem to enjoy battle." The response came back quickly. 3 additional Krex fleets were being dispatched to the Lumira system. Over 6,000 ships would arrive within days. "War Prime," Commander Grix said, "the reinforcements will give us overwhelming numerical superiority. Surely even these humans cannot stand against such numbers." Vorthak was not so confident. He had watched human fighters dance around his best pilots. He had seen human ships appear and disappear like ghosts. He had witnessed their weapons tear through Krek's armor like it was paper. "Numbers may not be enough," he said quietly. "These humans fight like they were born for war." On the Lumira homeworld, Elder Crystalline Song was receiving reports from her deep ocean scouts. Most of her people had successfully evacuated to the deepest cities, far below where sensors could detect them. But she had chosen to remain in the shallow cities to coordinate the evacuation. "Elder," flashed one of her assistants, "the human admiral wishes to speak with you." Crystalline Song moved to the communication chamber, where a view screen showed Admiral Kyung's face. "Elder," Kyung said, "my people have analyzed the Krek's reinforcement patterns. We believe they will bring at least 6,000 additional ships to this system." "Can your fleet defeat so many?" Crystalline Song asked through her light patterns, which the human computers translated into speech. "We will try," Kyung said. "But I want you to know that even if we fail, your people will survive. Our scientists have been working with Captain Huan to establish hidden colonies in other systems. The Lumira will not become extinct." Crystalline Song felt warmth spread through her body. These humans, these Deathworlders, had traveled across the galaxy to save her people. And even now, facing impossible odds, their first concern was for Lumira's survival. "Admiral," she flashed, "why do your people risk so much for strangers?" Kyung was quiet for a moment. "Because we know what it's like to be prey, Elder. Our homeworld taught us that the strong must protect the weak, or everyone becomes a victim, eventually." As the human fleet prepared for the arrival of massive Krek's reinforcements, Captain Su made a discovery that would change everything. "Admiral?" she called from her ship's science station. "I've been analyzing the Krek's communication patterns. I think I found something important." "What is it, Captain?" Kyung responded over the fleet communication channel. "The Kreks use a centralized command structure. All orders come from their war prime. If we could take out their command ship, the entire fleet would lose coordination," Kyung finished. "Excellent work, Captain. Do you have a plan?" "I do, sir. But it's going to require every stealth ship we have, and it's going to be very dangerous." "How dangerous?" "The kind of dangerous that wins wars, Admiral." Kyung smiled grimly. He had led human forces in desperate battles before, but never against aliens who wanted to harvest innocent civilians. "Send me your plan, Captain. It's time to show these Kreks what happens when they threaten our friends." As the human fleet prepared for the largest space battle in galactic history, word was spreading throughout known space. The mysterious Deathworlders had revealed themselves, and they were everything the legends said they were: predator species. Across the galaxy began to worry. If humans would travel 50 light-years to save strangers, what would they do to protect their own worlds? The answer to that question was about to become very clear. The asteroid field around the Lumira system became a graveyard of ships. Commander Wu guided his converted mining vessel, Deep Strike, through the floating rocks, each one now serving as a weapon platform. His ship had been a simple asteroid miner, just weeks ago. Now it carried enough kinetic weapons to destroy a space station. "Target acquisition complete," reported his gunner, a former mining engineer named Suk. "Krek's formation approaching Sector 7. Fire all tubes," Wu ordered. 20 asteroids, each one accelerated by magnetic launchers, flew toward the approaching Krek's ships at incredible speed. The aliens tried to dodge, but asteroids are large and difficult to avoid when they're moving. Fast enough. 3 Krek's cruisers disappeared in explosions of metal and atmosphere. "Reload," Wu said calmly. "Next formation is approaching Sector 12. The humans had turned the entire asteroid field into a massive weapon. Every rock became a missile. Every mining ship became a battleship. It was the kind of creative destruction that only a species from a dangerous world could imagine. Captain Ray watched the tactical display from her command ship and smiled coldly. The Kreks had brought 6,000 ships to destroy 300 human vessels. They thought numbers would give them victory. They had not considered that humans had brought something much more dangerous than numbers. "Gravity bomb deployment complete," her science officer reported. "All devices are in position." "Excellent," Ray said. "When the main Krek's fleet enters the trap zone, activate them all simultaneously." Gravity bombs were a human invention that most aliens considered impossible. They created temporary black holes that lasted just long enough to destroy everything nearby. The technology was so dangerous that humans only used it in desperate situations. This qualified as desperate. War Prime Vorthak led his massive reinforcement fleet into the Lumira system with confidence. He now commanded over 8,000 ships, the largest Krex Armada ever assembled. No species in galactic history had ever faced such overwhelming force and survived. War Prime, Commander Grix reported, long-range sensors show the human fleet has taken position in the asteroid field. They think rocks will protect them, Vorthak said with contempt. Begin bombardment pattern Omega. Destroy every asteroid in that field. The Krex fleet opened fire with every weapon they possessed. Energy beams and explosive missiles turned thousands of asteroids into dust and debris. It was an impressive display of firepower that should have eliminated any enemy hiding among the rocks, but when the bombardment ended, the human ships were still there. How is this possible? Vorthak demanded. The humans appear to have been using the asteroids as mobile cover, Grix explained. As each rock was destroyed, they moved to another one. And War Prime, they have been using the asteroids as weapons. Vorthak watched his tactical display as human mining ships launched asteroid after asteroid at his fleet. The rocks struck with the force of nuclear weapons, punching through Krex armor like it was thin metal. All ships advance to close range, he ordered. We will overwhelm them with superior numbers. It was exactly what Admiral Kyung had been waiting for. All ships, Kyung broadcast to his fleet, execute Operation Deathworld. Show them what we learned on Earth. Captain Yuna's stealth ship, Ghostwalker, had been hiding in the shadow of a large asteroid for 3 hours. Now she powered up her engines and began moving toward the Krex command ship. Stealth field holding, her engineer reported. Enemy sensors show no detection. Perfect, Yuna said. Take us in close. I want to look Vorthak in the eyes when I kill him. Ghostwalker slipped through the Krex formation like a shark moving through a school of fish. The alien ships were so focused on the human fleet in the asteroid field that they never noticed the small predator moving among them. Engineer Tay had spent the last week modifying every weapon system in the human fleet. Now his work was about to be tested in the most important battle in galactic history. Targeting modification complete, he reported to Admiral Kyung. All weapons now programmed to target Krex armor weak points. Excellent work, Tay, Kyung said. All ships, commence final attack. Target those stress points and show them why we're called Deathworlders. The human fleet emerged from the asteroid field like wolves attacking a herd of prey animals. But these wolves had been studying their prey for days, learning exactly where to bite for maximum damage. Human weapons found every weak point in Krex armor. Plasma beams struck exactly where chitinous plates joined together. Kinetic rounds hit stress points that caused entire armor sections to collapse. The Krex, who had seemed invincible when attacking defenseless species, began falling apart under precision human fire. War Prime! Grix screamed. We have lost over 400 ships in the first attack wave. How are they so accurate? Vorthak felt fear growing in his chest. The humans were not just shooting at his ships, they were dissecting them with surgical precision. All ships, focus fire on the human. Flagship, he ordered. Kill their commander. But Admiral Kyung had anticipated this tactic. His flagship Iron Will was protected by a screen of smaller ships that intercepted every shot aimed at him. Nice try, Kyung said to himself, but we wrote the book on coordinated defense. Lieutenant Ara led her fighter squadron in a devastating attack against the Krex carrier ships. Human fighters were smaller and faster than anything the aliens had, and they used that advantage perfectly. Blue leader to all blues, Ara called. Target their launch bays. Don't let them deploy anymore. Fighters. 12 human fighters dove toward a massive Krex carrier, weaving between defensive fire with impossible skill. They struck the carrier's fighter bays with precision bombs, turning the ship into a floating wreck. Carrier neutralized, Ara reported. Moving to next target? The battle raged for 8 hours. Human creativity and precision fought against Krex numbers and brute force. But as the hours passed, it became clear who was winning. Captain Yuna finally reached her target. Ghostwalker dropped her stealth field just a few kilometers from Vorthak's command ship. Surprise, she said quietly, and fired every weapon her ship carried. The Krex dreadnought Bone Crusher was massive and heavily armored. but Yuna's weapons struck at exactly the right points. The command ship's armor cracked, then shattered, then exploded outward in a shower of debris. War Prime Vorthak found himself floating in space, his command ship destroyed around him. Emergency systems kept him alive, but his fleet was falling apart without central coordination. He watched in horror as human ships moved through his armada like predators among prey. Every human attack was perfectly coordinated, every shot precisely aimed. These aliens fought like they had been born for war. "This is Admiral Kyung of the Terran Defense Fleet," came a voice over the emergency frequencies. "War Prime Vorthak, your fleet is defeated. Surrender now, and we will allow your surviving ships to withdraw." Vorthak looked at his tactical display. Of the 8,000 ships he had brought to this system, fewer than 3,000 remained functional. The humans had lost only 30 ships. It was the greatest military disaster in Krek's history. I surrender," he said quietly. On the Lumira homeworld, Elder Crystalline Song watched the battle's end through her orbital sensors. The Krek's fleet was retreating, leaving behind thousands of destroyed ships. The humans had won. Elder flashed. One of her assistants. "The human admiral wishes to speak with you." Admiral Kyung's face appeared on the communication screen. He looked tired but satisfied. "Elder," he said, "the Kreks have been defeated. Your people are safe." "Admiral," Crystalline Song flashed, "how can we ever repay you for what you have done?" "You don't need to repay us," Kyung said. "We did what any decent species would do. We protected those who could not protect themselves." "But why?" "We are strangers to you. You had never even met us before today." Kyung was quiet for a moment. "Because, Elder, we know what it's like to be hunted. Our world taught us that the strong must protect the weak, or eventually everyone becomes prey." Captain Huan stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the human fleet beginning to depart. The Deathworlders had kept their promise. They had saved the Lumira and defeated the most dangerous predator species in the galaxy. "Captain," Mireille said, "the humans are broadcasting a message to all ships in the system." "Put it on the main screen," Huan ordered. Admiral Kyung's face appeared, addressing the mixed fleet of human, Vellani, and Lumira vessels. "Today," he said, 3 species came together to defeat those who would prey upon the innocent. The Vellani had the courage to ask for help. The Lumira had the strength to survive, and humans had the ability to fight. Together, we are stronger than any of us could be alone. "This battle is over," Kyung continued, "but our work is not finished. Word of this victory will spread throughout the galaxy. Other species will learn that the innocent have protectors now, and predator species will learn that their victims are no longer defenseless. To any species listening to this message, if you are threatened by those who would harvest you, call for help. Earth will answer. To any predator species listening, find a new profession. The age of easy victims is over." As the human fleet prepared to return to Earth, Dr. Nari remained behind to continue working with the Lumira.